Hello, my name is Anjani, and today I'm looking at this chart just to give another example of the way Venus can affect you individually. So, this person has Venus going directly over his sun sign, which is in Aries. And I'm going to look at this chart a little bit more in depth because it's a good friend of mine. But for this reading, it's just going to be about if your sun sign is in Aries, how this Venus retrograde cycle could be affecting you, and some ideas of ways to work with the energy that's coming up. So, when the sun is in Aries, the sun in astrology shows us about the the style that you have, the overall flair that you have. So the sun is just one element out of this whole chart. But we have focused in Western society on the sun, but it doesn't really tell us a whole lot about the person. So for a man, this is a man's chart, I would look at, you know, Venus to find out what type of women he's interested in. I would look at Mars to find out what type of the masculine that he is representing. He's got his Mars in Capricorn, which would say that the sword that he carries is that of the elder, the tribal elder, sort of bringing and building foundation for the next generation. And his form of the feminine has to do with Pisces. So he's attracted to the form of the feminine, possibly, that is universally loving, compassionate, empathic, intuitive. And ultimately, this is his inner feminine. So for him to own those things within himself is sort of the recipe for a sacred marriage. So combining his Mars and his Venus, the tribal elder, the Capricorn energy, with that empathic, intuitive, loving form of the feminine, uniting those, that's the sacred marriage. So the sun shows us the style or the flair that he has. The sun, I like to say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And by looking at the sun, we can see that for him, it has to do with action, being the initiator, the igniter, lighting it up. Aries, as a sun sign, is direct, and it has a sort of fierceness about it. Archetypally, we think about Aries as the tribal protector. Like I think about the bouncer, or sometimes, yeah, I like to use that image because it's like, protecting the greater good and able to quickly and easily move out whatever is kind of messing up, the action. So, okay, so if you have your sun in the sign of Aries, so this is a 30-degree range, and we use a 10-degree range to talk about what's really affecting you personally. But if your sun sign is in Aries, you can be sure that at some point during this cycle, you're going to be affected by this energy of Venus, because she's actually starting her, it's a 19-month cycle that Venus goes through. And this particular cycle is Venus in Aries. So the goddess, the form of the goddess that is dedicated to her cause and mission, fiercely protecting and taking charge of whatever it is that she has decided is her mission. So if your sun is in Aries, Venus is going to be traveling through your sun sign. And what I would ask you is, first of all, what is your mission? Getting to know about what you stand for. It's going to come up anyway, because the way the cycles work is that it's like acupuncture. It activates parts of your life that are in alignment with what's happening in the bigger cycle. So this person asked me, like, what is it that, that I can actually, how does this make sense into actual day-to-day life? So the way that I see this, if I were reading his chart, I would ask some certain questions like, what is your original connection to the divine feminine? What is your original connection to the divine feminine? So when I'm saying to you, you know, your Venus is in Pisces, your connection to the divine feminine is going to be different than mine and than anybody else's. As Venus is going over your sun, it's reawakening that original intention. It is asking you to remember your original intentions with the divine feminine. So this could mean, you know, a new woman coming into your life. This is, you know, when we go a step deeper, I just wrote an article about this today. When you look one step deeper, it really has to do with you and your connection to the feminine within. So what does that mean to you? As Venus transits across your sun, basically what's happening is that you are doing alchemy, bringing your divine feminine essence to into yourself and being able to act from that place. So doing the sacred marriage would be a really, really beneficial thing for you right now. And I can add a little link to an article that I wrote that has steps to doing a sacred marriage. And since you have your chart, it'll be really easy for you to add all the tools together that I list in the steps. So the sun is going over, the sun and Venus are communicating with each other. And what this looks like to me is you really embodying your feminine essence and having that be something that spread, it's adding to your style. So no longer is your style just Venus, that you're able to incorporate more of your feminine qualities into your overall style and flair. So as Venus goes through the sign of Aries, anybody with a sun in Aries can think about metaphorically incorporating their inner feminine. So it would be really useful for you to find out where your Venus is. So for this person, his Venus is in Pisces. And I'm just going to grab the next chart that I'm working on right now. His Venus is in Gemini. So the sun isn't going over, you know, it's not going over his Venus, but it still can be a really beneficial time for everybody to really do alchemy and have their own sacred marriage where they're incorporating their own inner feminine into more of what they do. So I hope that makes sense. And in real life, actually, how can I do this? Terms. I hope that it's clear. Please ask questions, because to me it makes perfect sense that the goddess in her fierce protectress place, that she is infusing that energy out through everything you do if your sun is in the sign of Aries. So it's going to act differently for different people. So say that you have your moon sign in Aries and Venus is going over your moon. It would be activating the part of you that has to do with your emotions, your lineage, your roots, your tribe. So it acts differently for everybody who has anything in the sign of Aries, especially if your Venus is in Aries, your Mercury is in Aries, your sun, your moon, Venus or Mars. These are the prime players or the archetypes that have to do with your current life intention. They're also called personal planets. So if you have any of those in the sign of Aries, this is a very personal activation for you. So it's really good to know how to engage with that. And I made a video yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about that again here, but watch that video because it talks about what Venus in Aries is, what's the main intention of that. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it makes sense. I just jumped out of the shower and wanted to give this to my friend, so I decided to make it public for everybody because I think that it will be helpful if you have your sun in Aries to kind of get an idea of what's happening with the Venus cycle. And also, just for a resource, my teacher, Kaylin Castell, is the expert in the Venus cycles and different initiations with Venus. So her website is kaylincastell.com, and she has a bunch of articles that she has put together and a lot of resources and a class that she does very specific to Venus if you're interested in that. Otherwise, thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel, like the video. I always appreciate interaction. So your questions actually help me because I have this mind that's very broad and very abstract. And my thinking is like, in pictures. So when people ask me questions, I'm able to siphon it down into a pinpoint better than what I can when I'm just going off of my own abstract mind. So thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you soon.